welcome back to my channel. My name is Sharon. If you're seeing me for the first time, I make YouTube videos as a hobby, and today we have a visitor on this channel, a guest. Would you like to introduce yourself?
My name is Precious. I'm a medical student and a YouTuber. Yeah, I'm sure she will put the links in the description.
Yes, I'll put the links for her channel in the description, as well as for her Instagram and other ways to reach her. So Precious actually goes to school in China.
Oh yeah.
Yes. And we did a separate video on her channel about the differences between studying medicine in China and in Zambia. So definitely check that out. After you watch this, go and check that out. It was such an informational video. I learned a lot.
Also learned a lot.
I was like, yo, you guys have to speak Chinese. So this video is going to explore the different ways that our schools responded to the COVID pandemic and how we personally responded to it and how it affected us as students and just as people. So my first question for you is, what year are you in?
Oh, I'm in my fourth year.
Fourth year overall?
Fourth year, we're including pre-med and all that.
Okay, so you haven't started clinicals yet?
No, not yet.
We're gonna start clinicals at the same time actually, right?
Yeah.
Next year?
Yeah, I was supposed to start, but because I'm not in China.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So next year we're gonna start clinical rotations. I'm excited. Are you excited?
I tested a little bit of it.
Okay, so where do you go to school? Like, which school do you go to?
Okay, so I go to Zhejiang Chinese Medical University in China, in Hangzhou, if anyone is familiar.
So when did you guys have lockdown in the beginning?
Okay, so we had our lockdown. I can't remember the exact dates, but the first lockdown we had was end of January, like into beginning of February. But I think, yeah, towards the end of January.
So that was so early. Like, while everyone else is still like taking it as, oh, it's just a thing that side, you guys were actually feeling it.
Yeah, we're feeling it.
And what was that experience like? Were you guys scared or?
It was pretty scary because firstly, China is like a busy place. Like, China roads are packed, and for the first time, like, you'd go outside and see no one in the streets, like absolutely no one. Like, you go in the shopping, most people are just like packing things to like bulk buy.
I remember when people used to buy so much toilet paper.
Yeah, so it was, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that
scary.
sounds traumatizing. So our first lockdown was in March, March 20th. I remember the day. It was March 20th, and I remember we were in class, and actually there was so much speculation. People were like, nah, we're not closing schools, and then ZNBC was like literally airing in the middle of our anatomy class. They're like, yeah, schools are closed, so today is the last day of school. And we had asked our professor, and he had told us basically it's just gonna take a month. It will be a month and it will blow over. So it was supposed to be just a month and it's supposed to blow over, but obviously, you know, the fact that we're actually starting online classes now. So it was not a month, it was a year. Sir, it's been more than a year.
We thought it would be for a short time.
Yeah. For me, I didn't go home because I was like, you know, it's gonna be a month.
Yeah.
So I didn't go home, and then literally things moved so fast because it went from it to be a month to lockdown to the first couple with COVID came into the country, and then everyone was scared. I remember like they were quarantined, and it was like a very big deal. And then I was like, yo, I should go home. So when I tried to go home, the border was closed. And I was like, yo, I'm really stuck here. And I was stuck here I stayed for 2 extra months until May. That's when I was like, yeah, I have to go home. Yeah, because I was scared and I missed my family. So that's when I eventually left. When did you go home?
Oh, when did I go? Okay, so I left China, I think I was 11th of February.
11th February?
Yes.
Yeah. What made you leave?
We used to hear suitcases every day. Like, okay, at the beginning, because at first we were told, no, there's this disease. As you say, things escalated quickly. Next, we just hear lockdown. Next, the gates of the school gates are closed. You guys are not allowed to go outside. Next, no, you guys can't even go and buy food. You have to ask one person to buy food. Then I was just like, you know what? Firstly, our rooms are like quite very, very small in China. So then you start thinking, I'm going to be quarantined in this room for how long? Number one. Number two, people are leaving. Like, my friends started leaving. Like, every day I would hear suitcases. And then one of like my very, very good friend was just like, Precious, I'm going. I said, how? We're going together, sis. I'm not remaining here. But yeah. That's what made me leave.
Okay. How do you feel your school responded to the pandemic?
Okay, so firstly, I feel like our school responded quite well. Like, they locked down the school, which was one of the right things to do, like to help us, like steal us out from the public. Number two, they like facilitated like us still having like our foodstuffs. They had people who would go and buy for us when it was quite expensive than when you go on your own. And then nextly, they used to come and check on us in the rooms. They used to give us masks. They used to give us like, they even gave us thermometers. I think they begged us not to leave China. Like they used every day, like our dean would,
and you guys said bye. This is
like our dean, I don't know, after a few days she'd like write this letter like updating us what's going on, like whether we reached the peak of the pandemic, because they seemed to know, but whether we reached the peak or when the things were expecting the cases start going down. So yeah, I think they like their response was quite good.
So for our school, they were just as confused as everybody, and because our school is still so new, they're still, it's still under construction up to this day. So they were really not prepared. They did not budget for a pandemic, and they did not plan for a pandemic. So they were shook. They were confused. And obviously the next course was, are we supposed to end the semester and just start again or do online? And one thing I will give them props for is that they really tried their best so that we learn online, even though the first online system was a disaster. It was a mess. It was horrible. Like, we're all just always confused. You find out like we're supposed to do a quiz, and then everyone is at the same time watching the quiz, and the system would just crash. And it's like, how? The lecturers would deal with it their own ways. Some lecturers would be like, you know what, I understand. You can try multiple times to get your highest score. For biochem, I remember she got everyone's first attempt, and my first attempt I couldn't figure it out, so it scored me a 0. So she got my 0 and she put it on my CA, and I was like, but what? That woman is a savage. She is. But then anyways, over time they developed the e-learning platform, and it's actually one of our main ways of learning now. And they have really fine-tuned it where it works, especially now that we're going into online classes again. At least we are going into it with something that works.
I think it was the whole world that was confused, because I remember the first time I heard about online class, I was like, what's that?
I was like, what's that?
What's that? Because for us, when the pandemic hit, we were on holiday, so we didn't have to worry about class. Like, but now when it was like February, the pandemic's not disappearing, and what are online classes? We're hearing from other schools, people doing what are online classes? How do you do that?
I remember in the beginning our lecturers would just drop documents in the website, and they just drop documents. I'm like, how? Explain what you're dropping. Because it took them a while, obviously, to figure out what works. But it was confusion. How did you deal with the online class in the beginning? Like, what was your first impression?
Okay. So online classes, I first had my online classes when I came back home. So I've come back home after, I think, almost over 2 years of not being home. I'm still trying to like readjust to being home, and then you throw in online classes. I was really like wanting to see what it was going to be about. The first class, I can't really remember my first class, but I remember the first semester just being very enthusiastic about class. I would wake up, sit down with a notebook and try and get some notes. But my first experience in online class was okay. The Chinese people are people who like having things like top notch, organized, they figure things out. So it wasn't like perfect in the beginning, but they tried their best. So yeah, the online classes were, because I hear other schools in China, they didn't even have any online classes. They missed the whole semester.
Whoa.
Like the whole first semester.
So they had to redo that semester.
Somehow, yes.
Yo.
Oh, actually, one of the schools I hate, they just threw exams, I think. Like, they don't need no semester, they just give you exams.
But I like how they did it in the UK, where everyone passed. They passed everyone, and they just continued with classes, but they're like, everyone passes.
Anyone from my school?
Unilas, this semester, please. I have to go to clinicals. Just pass me, please.
No struggle. No cracking.
I promise I'll study.
No pulling on nighters. Just automatic.
Just automatic. They just really trust those guys, because they're probably gonna pass anyways. And does my school trust us like that? No. Every semester is an audition to make sure you go to the next semester. So for me personally, with the online classes, I was so apathetic to the whole situation, because I always felt like it was just temporary. So I was like, I don't really, just. So the notes would come in, and there were so many notes, and there was just power, and I'd be like, I'll do it tomorrow. Oh, I'll do it next week. Oh, and then it's time for exams, and I'm like, how? This is so much work. Like literally, I remember the night before pathology, I was still going over Robbins, still trying to understand.
And Robbins is big.
It's big. It's huge. And that's the problem with online learning, is that it requires so much strength from you.
Exactly. You have to put in. No one will push you a bit.
Yeah, because my study partner actually. Without my study partner, I would have gone to hell, honestly, because he's the one who, like, we used to motivate each other. So we're like, bro, tomorrow at this time, we have to video call each other and discuss what we studied. And so I had a motivation to actually study and keep up with my books now, which was good. And I really liked the way our anatomy professor was teaching us, because he was making sure we're having a quiz every single week, which I think is a good thing, because if you quiz me, that means I have to study it. I can't lie around it, you know? So that was good. But it was a mess. But now I'm ready. For this next online one, I'm ready.
Actually, when you said that you used to leave notes to pile up, that was me also the first semester. Like after some time, you just look and it's like exactly like, this is temporary. Do some big down.
How many slides? 4.
I was shocked at the end of the
Yeah.
I'm like,
20 slides. I thought it was 4.
I remember reading a whole textbook in like 2 days. Ethics. I don't know if anyone else does ethics. But you're not meant to go ethics. It's like I'm sorry, but it's boring.
How did you read that in 2 days?
I don't know. I read the whole textbook in like 2 to 3 days.
When there's a will, there's a way.
Because I was just like,
I want to hear that it's difficult or it's hard. Because yo. So I want to ask about your mental health. Like, while the pandemic is going on and you're having to learn online and there's so much uncertainty, how was your mental health and how did you deal with that?
Okay, firstly, I think my mother still laughs at me because I used to go from China like, I need an air ticket to come home. Like I started crying. Like, it was just a point where I was done. I remember even the night that I left China, if any of my friends who were in my room that night remember, like, I couldn't find even simple things. I remember I was very disoriented. I remember in the morning when I was leaving, like, finally going to the train station, I had to like text my class teacher, like, I don't know, because for me, most of it, why it was affecting me was like, what about if I get sick? What about if I take this to my family? I don't know if I'll be able to quarantine once I reach home. Number 2, it was, what about if I leave China and then the schools open in 2 weeks? Because I left like 2 weeks before our holiday was ending. And I'm like, what if I have to come back? And I've wasted all the money just running away from COVID. So I had so much anxiety. I dealt with the aftermath. And then when I came here, there was so much like ritual killings going on.
Oh, from the pot to the fire.
Yes, exactly. So like Zambia also, I remember I wouldn't sleep. Like even when I went, like I traveled, I went, but I couldn't sleep. There were nights where I couldn't sleep. I was just, my mental health was in shreds. I was not okay. You know those, I don't know if you've seen Instagram reels, like the trend that's going on, like post a video of you when you were not okay. That's a period where I wasn't okay. Like I'll be smiling, but I was not okay.
Yo, that's bad. That was really bad. For me, I feel like my mental health, I think like what you've said about, you're so anxious about the pandemic. Like it's a disease, you're just hoping that you don't get it. You're hoping your family doesn't get it. Every time you cough, you're like, oh no, is it come for me? You know, every time you can't breathe for a second, you're like, oh. And you have to deal with that. And also you have to deal with classes. And for me, I felt like, because I used to, and I don't do this anymore, I used to watch so much news, and every day on the news, they would show the numbers, how many people are dying, how many people are dying. And I was just like, yo, so am I gonna also be one of those numbers? And in the middle of that, I have to worry about pathology and I have to worry about anatomy. So honestly, school took a backseat because I was just stressed and worried and anxious, like you said. It was a very, But my mental health during that time was just a mess.
I felt like that just like after the pandemic started, I felt like we should have cancelled all semesters for students because it was a battle balancing anxiety of the pandemic this side and school. Because even as you said, the numbers, for me, I used to pass my fear. I used to go and watch a lot of videos of how people have died of COVID. And I show people like, hey, look how this one died.
remember there'd be videos, and back then it was so extremely exaggerated.
Yeah.
And it was a hard time.
Yeah, it was.
It was really hard. So I'm gonna ask you, have you ever had COVID before?
No.
You're so lucky. What, this whole time? You have superior genes.
Online classes, always indoors.
Oh, or maybe you've had it but you're asymptomatic. Because the second time I had it, I was asymptomatic, and I only found out because I was getting tested and I was to come here.
Oh.
So they're like, yeah, you have COVID. And I was like, excuse me, what? Because me, I feel great. How can I have COVID when I feel so wonderful? That went down.
I wrote, is it last semester in an assignment in pharmacology, you're writing 150 drugs, like writing their uses, what they do, and I
An assignment.
I can't remember, like I filled 2 notebooks, like those had, okay.
What kind of an assignment? What kind of assignment are you guys getting?
Oh, you should meet this specific teacher. He might come across some
150 drugs.
Oh, 150 drugs.
I don't even think I've come across 150 drugs in pharmacology so far.
And you have to write the name of the drug, the use,
Ah.
the I don't know, side effects.
Ah.
I don't know, whatever. I can't. I went to visit my sister. I was writing, and she was like, "Precious, you're very serious in school." Like, sis, you can't read it.
Yeah, that's what I was like. You're so serious. It's an assignment. I just have to do this. It looks like I'm serious, but I'm just doing.
Like, no, you couldn't tell me anything. I'm like, you can't relate to this.
And that's another thing about being a medical student. People just can't relate.
Yeah, you can't
like I try to
relate.
explain, but they're just like, oh, and it's like. You don't understand. Even like waiting for these results, you didn't understand, bro. I'll be like, I really don't know. And they're like, shit on you, you're clear. But I knew what I wrote.
Exactly.
I knew it was a 50-50. Are you vaccinated?
No.
Still not.
Still
Still not vaccinated. I was supposed to get vaccinated during this weekend, but then I found myself that side. So yeah, but I don't want to get vaccinated. Ultimately, a vaccine is not supposed to prevent the COVID. It's just supposed to prevent how much it messes you up. You know, and I don't want to be messed up. Like, do you feel better now that there's the Johnson & Johnson vaccine? Because it feels like a lot of people had an issue with the AstraZeneca vaccine.
I've been seeing the post, like when they posted that it's now there. I don't know, I was reading somewhere again that even the Johnson & Johnson have issues with it. So
Wow.
I just read.
So which one do we have an issue with?
Someone was saying, but you know, there's just so much fake news. You can't decipher the fake and the real news. So I read somewhere that no, the Johnson & Johnson, they found this. So at this point, I'm just like, guys.
Yeah, and that's why it's important to do your own research.
Yeah.
Yeah, and trusted sources.
So yeah, that's true.
You know, because if your auntie sends you something on WhatsApp.
Hey.
So ever since you left China, like how have you been learning? Because you're still here.
I'm still in Zambia. It's over a year. I've been doing online classes I was in my 3rd year when I came. I'm now even going in my 5th.
Yo.
When I start my 6th classes in September, I'm in 5th year. So
that?
I've basically done my whole 4th year online. It's been hard, and because of that, I dragged myself, like before our clinical semester, I dragged myself to the hospital, like to go and get exposure, like just to wake myself up. Because there's a point where online classes, like it got, I don't know if you can say depressing, like I don't know if that's a bad word, or like I'm overusing the word, but yes, there's a point where online classes got depressing for me. Like I did not want anything to do with them.
And it's not stimulating enough, you know, it's different than being in an actual class. Because if you're in class, I'm gonna pay attention because I'm scared that this teacher is gonna like yell at me if I sleep. But on my computer, I'm gonna be on the next tab, I'm gonna be on YouTube. And yeah,
and then you've got like I missed my what do you call this? I forgot immunology. Immunology. I don't know if it was immunology lab. I forgot it, but I've missed a lot of labs. I've missed a lot of practical classes. Like I just have to watch videos. And the thing is that I'm supposed to know those things now.
Yeah.
Like for example, certain things I'm supposed to know the practical things, like maybe inserting cannulas or inserting catheters, anything. And then when I go in the hospital, the doctors will be upset with me, like you don't know this, you get it. But it's not my fault.
It's not your fault because you have to do labs online.
So,
how do you do labs online?
Yeah. So it's quite like I can remember the practical classes. I can remember just not even attending them because I was like, I used to find it quite upsetting. I only saw what they learned when the exam was the next day. And they got to do the exam in the class. I had to do it online. And I was like, guys.
So there's still people in your class who remained in China?
In my class, out of 55, only 6 remained.
Yo. And those people like actually get to learn online?
No, they go for physical classes. Majority of their classes are physical actually.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's sometimes the teacher will be teaching and pay attention at them who are in class and maybe forget some of us are online.
Oh yeah.
So sometimes you even make a plan with your friend like, oh, let's hang out today, but you know you have an online class. You're like, I'll put it aside because there's nothing I can hear. Sometimes the audio is bad.
No. Let me put you guys into the mental of what happens with online classes. The video starts and in the beginning you're there and you have your notebook and you're like yeah, and then one concept you don't understand and then a next one and then you're like, I wonder what's going on Twitter. And then you just go and you're scrolling and you're like, this is interesting. And then you're like, you know what? She's not even explaining anyways. I'll just read. She's just reading the notes.
I'll
read the notes later. And then the next
big
class.
lie.
I'll do it tomorrow. And then the next lecture, you're behind because you didn't attend the last one. And then before you know it, it's a downward spiral and you're just lost in the sauce. You don't even know.
Next thing you know, exam timetable. This was so me last semester. Like I kept on telling my roommate, we're going to study. I was just shocked from now we're writing exams. I'm like, how? Guys?
You know, that's what's actually happening right now because with my study partner, we're like, this semester we're going to get A's as one. But that's what you say the other semester. But I really hope this one will be the right semester for that. So now that we have discussed the whole journey to you coming back to Zambia, do you feel like you made the right choice? If you could go back, would you make any changes?
Okay, so what I normally say now, since it's been like a year and a half since I came, actually not a year and a half, it's almost 2 years. Oh yeah, it's almost a year and a half since I came. I normally say like at this point, like this, I no longer look at it like it's a regret I came home or it's a benefit, like it's good I came home, because so much has happened. In the beginning it was a regret, like I just was like, why did I come, like, but then there was a point where I realized like last year 2020 I lived my whole life was just, I lived like, you know, living with packed suitcases, like where in your head you just, when China just says come back to school, that's the way I lived. But then after, like as 2020 was ending, I was like, I haven't lived my life this year. Like I've lived with just stress about going back to school. Like let me start living in Zambia, like let me start enjoying my time here. And that's how I started going to the hospital, like just concentrating on my life here. And that's what has, you know, made me realize that at this point I've had good times, I've had bad times. Sometimes I miss my roommate, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It was a pandemic.
It's still going on, unfortunately, and we still don't know how it's going to proceed. This thing keeps mutating. I really hope it comes to an end, because all we have to battle it right now is a mask and vaccines. So I really hope something is done, because when I start clinicals, I don't want to do clinicals online.
No, that's you obviously going.
Yeah, like I want to get the full experience, and I feel like I'm so angry with COVID because it robbed me of the university experience I always wanted, because my journey to medical school was such a long journey and I was so excited, and COVID just dropped me off it because, you know, I hate you, COVID. You're the worst.
COVID really did steal like our experience. Like when I think of it, I'm like, I left school when I was in my 3rd year. Like I've missed so much.
Bro.
I've missed so much living on campus.
Since March. At least last semester we got to have physical classes, so that was good. Okay guys, this is the end of the video. If you made it to the end, please comment and let us know how COVID affected your life, how you dealt with it. If you are in medical school, how did your institution deal with the COVID pandemic? And thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far, it means you have to subscribe, because hello, you made it this far. But thank you so much for watching. Like this video, comment underneath it, obviously subscribe, turn on your notifications if you're about that life, and definitely check out Precious's channel. I'm going to actually put the channel name here on the screen and in the description box. And yeah, see the video that we did about, you know, China and Zambia, the differences. And until next time, thank you guys for watching. Bye.